You've been told your whole life to ask. Ask the universe, ask God, ask life, ask for what you want and wait for the response. But you feel it, don't you? Something inside you has always known that asking never truly felt powerful. It felt hopeful, yes, but not creative, not authoritative, not transformative. Asking makes you feel like someone standing on the outside of your own desire, knocking on a door that no one seems to open. And yet you kept doing it, because every book, every documentary, every law of attraction expert said the same thing. Raise your vibration, match the frequency, ask, believe, receive. But there's a strange emptiness in that formula, and you've sensed it more than once. You've felt yourself chasing the right vibration, trying to feel positive at the right moment, trying to push away doubt and fear so you don't mess up your manifestation. You've built this small emotional prison where you constantly monitor yourself, and still, nothing changes fast enough. But here's the part no one told you, the part that Neville exposed so ruthlessly that it cuts right through everything you've been conditioned to believe. You don't manifest from what you ask. You manifest from what you assume. The moment you ask, you reveal to yourself and to the deeper intelligence within you that you do not yet possess what you want. Asking is the emotional blueprint of "I don't have it," and this is the first invisible trap, because the state of not having has gravity. It pulls you back, it wraps around your thoughts, it shapes your tone, your expectations, your decisions, your interpretations of the world. You've been taught to polish your vibration like someone polishing a stone, hoping that if it shines enough, the universe might notice. But Neville wasn't interested in polishing anything. He was interested in identity, in state. He knew something radical. A state is stronger than a thought. A state is stronger than a feeling. A state is stronger than hope, effort, or vibration. A state is the root, and roots always grow into form. You have spent years working on the leaves, trying to make them greener, brighter, higher, without ever touching the soil. And that's why old patterns keep regrowing. That's why doubts return. That's why affirmations sometimes feel like lies whispered into a void. You're trying to change the branches while staying rooted in the state of someone who still lacks what they want. Neville didn't expose the secret out of arrogance. He exposed it because the world had built an entire philosophy on the wrong starting point. Not maliciously, just ignorantly. The secret focused on emotion. Neville focused on identity. Emotion is unstable. Identity is magnetic. Emotion fluctuates. Identity directs. Emotion tries to feel good enough to receive. Identity already belongs to the reality it experiences. This is the shift you've been starving for, even if you didn't have the words for it. This is the missing layer, the part beneath the affirmations, beneath the visualizations, beneath the good vibes and positive thinking. And once you see the difference, you can't unsee it. Because deep down, you already know that the universe doesn't respond to what you ask. It responds to who you are being when you ask. You're not meant to beg, you're meant to become. And the moment you grasp this, the world begins to rearrange itself around you, quietly, subtly, inevitably. You've probably never questioned the act of asking. It feels natural, human, reasonable. If you want something, you ask for it, from people, from life, from the universe. It feels humble, sincere, even spiritual. But Neville came along and exposed something almost offensive in its simplicity. If you are asking, you are admitting you don't have. And consciousness creates from the state you're in, not the words you use. This is the part that makes people uncomfortable, because it means the universe isn't responding to your prayers. Your vision boards, your affirmations, your scripting, your desire, or your effort. It's responding to your identity in the moment you ask, the internal confession underneath every request. You say, "I want more money," but what you're actually broadcasting is, "I am someone without money." You say, "I want love," but what your state whispers is, I am someone unloved. You say, I want to be chosen. But the emotional truth behind your voice is, I believe I am not chosen yet. And the universe, which Neville called the creative power within you, listens only to the deepest layer, not the polished surface, not the hopeful words, not the forced positivity, only the state. And you know this. You've felt it. There are moments where you say all the right things, think all the right thoughts, repeat all the right affirmations, yet something inside remains untouched. A small, quiet resistance, a subtle ache, a silent conclusion about who you are. And that conclusion, that identity, is what keeps shaping your days. Neville didn't condemn prayer. He clarified it. He pierced through centuries of misunderstanding and said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not ask for the wish to be fulfilled, not hope the wish will be fulfilled, not feel worthy enough to receive. Assume it, wear it, become it, now. This is why your manifestation sometimes feels slow or inconsistent, because you're trying to plant the seeds of a new future in the soil of an old identity. You're trying to build a new life while standing in the emotional architecture of your past self. Imagine someone whispering to the universe, please give me abundance, while carrying the posture, the beliefs, the memories, and the behaviors of someone who has struggled for years. The request and the identity cancel each other out. And Neville's truth reveals itself. You cannot receive from a place that contradicts what you seek. You can only receive from the place that matches it. This is why asking fails. Not because the universe ignores you, but because you override your own request with the state you continue to inhabit. And the moment you see this clearly, something shifts inside you. A realization begins to form, quietly, almost intimidatingly. It's not that your desires are distant, it's that you've been relating to them as if they were. Desire isn't the issue. Asking isn't the issue. The issue is the subtle assumption underneath your asking, I am still the version of me who doesn't have this. Neville wasn't teaching you to beg more effectively. He was teaching you to stop begging altogether. To stop standing outside your own life, tapping on the window. To step into the version of you who already lives the reality you want. Not in fantasy, not in delusion, but in identity. Because once you become that version internally, the external world no longer resists you. It begins to rearrange itself around you, not because you asked, but because you assumed. You've heard this idea so many times, it almost feels sacred. Your feelings create your reality. It's the central doctrine of The Secret. Change your vibration, and you change your life. Feel good, and good things come. Feel abundant, and abundance flows. It sounds beautiful, it sounds empowering, it sounds spiritually correct. But it contains a devastating blind spot, one so subtle that most people never notice it, yet so fundamental that it quietly sabotages their efforts for years. Here it is. You can try to feel abundant while still being in the state of someone who lacks abundance. And you won't notice the contradiction because you're too focused on the feeling, not the identity underneath it. This is where The Secret unintentionally misleads you. It teaches you to work on your emotions as if they are the source of change. But emotions are echoes. They are signals. They are surface reflections of something deeper, your state of consciousness. And when you try to manipulate your emotions without shifting your state, you end up creating a split inside yourself. A performance, a kind of emotional acting. You try to feel rich, you try to feel loved, you try to feel chosen, you try to feel positive. But beneath that performance, something inside you whispers, this isn't who I really am yet. And that whisper is the true vibration, the one the universe responds to, the one that shapes your outcomes, not the feeling you're trying to project for 10 minutes, but the state you're living in for the other 23 hours and 50 minutes. Neville understood that feelings are not the cause. They are the effect of a deeper cause, assumption. A state of consciousness naturally produces its own feelings. You don't have to force them, you don't have to chase them, you don't have to maintain them like spinning plates in the air. You simply step into a new identity, and the emotions shift automatically. The Secret teaches you to change your mood. Neville teaches you to change your being. And once you see that difference, the entire spiritual landscape rearranges itself in your mind, because you realize something profound. You've been trying to reach the destination by painting the signposts instead of walking the path. Trying to feel wealthy while believing you are still the person who struggles with money creates internal friction. Trying to feel loved while believing you are still the person who gets abandoned creates emotional confusion. Trying to feel worthy while believing you're not there yet creates spiritual exhaustion. You've been trying to control the ripples instead of entering the water. Neville's teachings cut through all of this noise by revealing the truth that the Secret skipped, ignored, or never fully understood. You do not manifest what you feel, you manifest what you know yourself to be. If you know yourself as someone who always struggles, your attempts to feel good become temporary highs that collapse under the weight of your state. If you know yourself as someone who is chosen, abundance, love, opportunities, they don't have to be attracted. They recognize you. This is the part the Secret didn't tell you. Feelings follow identity, not the other way around. And if you try to change your life by controlling your feelings alone, you will always hit the same invisible ceiling. Because the ceiling isn't your vibration, it's your self-concept, and the moment you shift that, the ceiling dissolves, not gradually, not painfully, but instantly, because the one who lived under the ceiling no longer exists. There is a moment in your day that you overlook constantly, a moment so ordinary, so familiar, so quiet, that you've never considered it sacred, you've never considered it dangerous, you've never considered it powerful enough to rebuild your entire life. But Neville did. He pointed directly at the one transition almost no one pays attention to, the shift between wakefulness and sleep. That soft, dissolving edge where your mind stops fighting, your identity becomes fluid, and the world you cling to all day begins to loosen its grip. It's a moment you enter every night without realizing you're walking through a doorway, and because you enter it unconsciously, you carry yesterday into tomorrow without interruption. But tonight can be different. Neville said that this moment, this drifting state, is the fertile soil of creation. The place where your conscious mind finally steps aside and the deeper part of you, the creative power, the imaginal engine, wakes up. Not your thinking mind, not your hoping mind, not your affirming mind, but the part of you that accepts whatever you give it as truth. During the day, your consciousness is stubborn. It argues, it doubts, it measures, it checks your bank account. It pays attention to who texts back and who doesn't. It remembers every disappointment. It keeps score. And because of that, you struggle to shift your state. Because your waking mind is always negotiating with your desire, comparing it to the facts of your current life. But in that fragile, precious moment before sleep, the mind stops negotiating. It stops resisting. It stops arguing for limitations. It simply accepts, and acceptance is creation. Neville knew this. He learned to use this moment the way a sculptor uses clay, soft, warm, responsive. Everything you impress upon the mind in that state goes straight into the root of your being, shaping tomorrow with quiet authority. Think of how many nights you've fallen asleep replaying your fears, your disappointments, your insecurities. You drift off, thinking about what you don't have, what you might lose, what isn't working, what scares you, what exhausts you. You let the final voice in your mind each night be the voice of your old state, and then you wonder why your external life doesn't change. Every night, without knowing it, you have sealed your identity with the emotion you carried into sleep. And this is why Neville's portal matters so much. Sleep is not an escape from your reality. It is the workshop where your reality is rebuilt. When you enter that drifting state, you are closest to your deeper self. And that self does not understand effort or struggle. It does not respond to begging or hoping. It responds only to the impression of who you believe yourself to be. In that moment, that single, fleeting moment, you are no longer limited by your past. You're not weighed down by memory. Your identity becomes soft, pliable, open, and you can rewrite it. This is why Neville insisted, if you do nothing else, if you learn no other technique, if you master no other spiritual practice, master the state you fall asleep in, because the state you carry into sleep is the seed your subconscious waters all night long. If you fall asleep in fear, fear grows. If you fall asleep in lack, lack grows. If you fall asleep as someone waiting, life keeps you waiting. But if you fall asleep as the one who already has, the one who already is, the one who already exists in the reality you desire, then the creative power within you begins aligning your world accordingly, not out of magic, but out of obedience to the identity you claimed. Tonight, you will not fall asleep accidentally. You will not drift into old patterns. You will not surrender to the emotional residue of your day. Tonight, you step into the portal with intention, with clarity, with the authority of someone who finally understands what happens in the silent depths of the mind after the world disappears. Tonight, you choose who you become. Tonight, you will do something radically simple. So simple that your logical mind might underestimate it. So short that your old self might dismiss it. But if you allow yourself to sink into this deeply, honestly, without rushing, you will feel the shift begin inside you like a soft click, a quiet reorganization of who you are. Neville never asked you to visualize for hours. He never asked you to force belief. He never asked you to maintain a perfect emotional frequency. He knew the mind bends under too much pressure. It resists, it rebels. It tries to control the outcome, and in doing so, it collapses the state you're trying to inhabit. So instead, he gave you something elegant, gentle, undeniably powerful. 20 seconds of assuming the end as a fact. And tonight, you'll finally understand why it works. Here is the heart of the method. You choose one single fact. Not a scene, not a fantasy, not a movie in your mind, but a fact that would be unquestionably true if your desire were already fulfilled. Something simple, compact, undeniable. If wealth were already yours, what single fact would prove it? If love were already yours, what quiet detail would reveal it? If success were already yours, what effortless sign would confirm it? Not grand gestures, not dramatic visuals, not overwhelming emotion, just one fact. The kind of detail the fulfilled version of you would take for granted, because it's not the scene that matters, it's the identity embedded in the scene. Once you choose that fact, the method begins. You lie down, you breathe, you let the noise of your day fall away, and then, without effort, without forcing emotion, you let yourself become the version of you for whom this fact is simply true. For 20 seconds, 20 seconds of being the person who no longer wonders if their desire is coming because it already arrived. 20 seconds of allowing the body to relax into certainty. 20 seconds of releasing the old state and stepping into the new. 20 seconds of no struggle, no craving, no waiting. You're not trying to feel anything. You're not trying to generate excitement. You're not trying to raise your vibration. You are doing something infinitely more powerful. You're accepting. And acceptance doesn't require emotion. It requires identity. Think about it. When something is already true in your life, you don't get emotional about it. You don't strain. You don't seek confirmation. You simply live from it. And that's exactly why this method works. When you assume one simple fact as true for 20 seconds, you bypass the emotional resistance that normally rises when you try to believe something new. You're not arguing with your old self. You're not negotiating with doubt. You're not trying to overcome your past. You're doing something cleaner. You are quietly replacing it. 20 seconds is long enough for the subconscious to accept the impression, and short enough that the conscious mind doesn't interfere. And here is the part most people miss. You don't need to repeat the 20 seconds over and over. You don't need to hold the feeling all night. You don't need to revisit it tomorrow. You only need to let it sink in, fully, honestly, for those 20 seconds before sleep. Because it isn't repetition that creates the change, it's identification. 20 seconds of becoming the fulfilled version of you will do more for your manifestation than hours of forcing emotions from a state of lack. Tonight, you won't be trying to manifest. You will be being, and that difference is everything. There is a moment, right after your 20 seconds, when your mind is open, quiet, unguarded. You've just stepped into a new identity. Your old assumptions loosen. Your inner world softens. You feel yourself suspended between who you were and who you are choosing to become. This is the moment where most people sabotage themselves. They think they must repeat the feeling, repeat the scene, repeat the desire, repeat the affirmation, repeat the intention, repeat, as if the universe responds to persistence instead of clarity. But repetition, in this delicate state, does something you don't expect. It confirms that you don't yet believe the shift has happened. It turns your newly claimed identity back into something fragile, something incomplete, something that still needs reinforcement. And that is why Neville introduced a phrase so simple, so understated, that most overlook its power. Once tonight. Not twice, not 10 times, not until you feel something dramatic. Once. Because the version of you who already has something doesn't repeat it, doesn't chant it, doesn't chase it, doesn't try to convince themselves. The one who has doesn't need reassurance. So after your 20 seconds, when the desired identity is already settling into your consciousness, you speak the phrase softly within yourself. Once tonight, it is done. And you let it go. This phrase is not a command. It is not an affirmation. It is not a wish. It is a closure, a seal, a finality. It tells the deeper part of you, I do not revisit this. I do not doubt it. I do not return to the old state. It's the psychological equivalent of signing your name on the reality you just assumed. Because here's the truth you've always felt, but never put into words. The desire is never the problem. The uncertainty is. Desire is clean. It's pure. It moves straight from your imagination into possibility. But uncertainty splits your energy. It divides your identity. It puts one foot in the old world and one foot in the new. And divided identity cannot create. When you say once tonight, you collapse that division. You choose the new world, fully, quietly, irreversibly. And here's why you only say it once. If you repeat it, you're no longer sealing the state. You're trying to reinforce it. Trying to reinforce it means you think it's fragile. Thinking it's fragile means you think it's not truly yours yet. And if you don't believe it's yours, your subconscious follows that belief instead. One time is enough. One time is perfect. One time communicates the authority of someone who has shifted states completely. Think of how you behave when you really know something is happening. You don't check it every 5 minutes. You don't ask for guarantees. You don't rehearse it. You accept it. And acceptance has a quiet confidence, a stillness, a finality. Once tonight is the language of finality. It tells your consciousness, I will not revisit the seed I just planted. I trust it. And trust is the substance of assumption, the emotional signature of fulfillment. When you speak this phrase, you're not talking to the universe outside you. You're speaking directly to your inner creative power. The part of you that rearranges circumstances, nudges people, shifts timelines, opens paths, and aligns events without effort. It listens to your certainty, not your repetition. So tonight, after your 20 seconds, you will speak the phrase, not with force, not with intensity, but with the gentle neutrality of someone who knows, once tonight, it is done. And then you fall asleep as the one who already has. Not hoping, not asking, not waiting, being. There comes a moment, quiet, nearly invisible, when something inside you rearranges itself. It doesn't feel dramatic, it doesn't feel explosive, it doesn't even feel like a breakthrough. It feels like a settling, a soft internal alignment, a gentle click that tells you, I am no longer who I was yesterday. This is the shift Neville spoke about. Not a surge of emotion, not a spiritual high, not a wave of ecstasy or certainty, but a change in identity so subtle that, at first, you barely recognize it. And yet everything in your world begins to respond to it. Because once your state changes, life is no longer obligated to mirror your past. It mirrors you, the you that exists now, not the you that struggled, not the you that waited, not the you that begged for signs, not the you that lived in doubt. Your world reorganizes itself around the version of you that you accepted in those 20 seconds and sealed with once tonight. This is when you start noticing it, a softness in your reactions, a new calm in situations that used to trigger you, a quiet expectation of good instead of a fear of disappointment. You begin to think differently, not because you force yourself to, but because a new identity has taken its place behind your thoughts. Your conversations shift, your posture shifts, your assumptions shift, your interpretations shift. You no longer interpret delays as rejection. You no longer interpret challenges as proof of failure. You no longer interpret waiting as loss. You begin to feel something rare and unfamiliar, inevitability, not arrogance, not wishful thinking, not fake positivity, just inevitability. The sense that what you assumed is already weaving its way into your life. Not by chance, not by luck, not by cosmic generosity, but by obedience. Your world feels different because you are different, and the outer world is not independent of you, it is an echo. Neville said, "Your world is yourself pushed out." And most people quote that without understanding the depth of what it means. It means your world cannot stay the same if you no longer are. It means your environment must shift to match your internal authority. It means the moment you claim a new identity, reality begins gathering itself around that identity, like iron filings pulled toward a magnet. You do not look for signs. Signs begin looking for you. Opportunities appear, not because you chase them, but because they recognize the version of you who belongs to them. People respond differently because you no longer emit the silent energy of someone waiting for permission to receive. Your circumstances become more fluid, more open, more flexible, because the rigid structure of your old identity has dissolved. You might not notice the shift at first. Most people don't. It's only when you look back that you whisper to yourself, something changed that night. Not because you begged, not because you repeated affirmations, not because you tried to feel more worthy, but because you became the version of you who already has what you desire, and then fell asleep as them. And when you wake up the next morning, the world greets you differently, not dramatically, but unmistakably. Small things begin aligning, subtle coincidences appear, paths open that were closed for years. People speak to you in ways they never did before. Ideas arrive effortlessly, solutions seem to find you instead of you hunting for them. Life bends, not because the world changed first, but because you did. This is the secret beneath the secret, the engine beneath manifestation. The architecture beneath every transformation you've ever longed for. You don't wait for your desire waits for you to become the one who receives it. And on the night you step into that identity, on the night you give your subconscious a new blueprint, on the night you whisper once tonight, your world quietly begins to reassemble itself in your favor, automatically, inevitably, faithfully, because consciousness does not betray the one who dares to assume. You reach the end of this journey, and something inside you feels different, not louder, not brighter, but clearer, because now you understand what was missing all along. It was never your desire, it was never your worthiness, it was never your vibration, or your ability to stay positive, or the strength of your will. It was the state you kept falling asleep in, the identity you carried into the quiet hours of the night. The version of you that your subconscious listened to while the world disappeared. Tonight, that changes. Tonight, you enter sleep not as someone who hopes, but as someone who assumes. Not as someone who waits, but as someone who is. Not as someone reaching, but as someone who has already arrived, and you do it gently, effortlessly, deliberately. 20 seconds, one assumed fact. A single phrase, once tonight, it is done. And then you let yourself drift into the reality you have chosen. Not the one you inherited from doubt or memory or fear, because now you know your world isn't changed by effort, but by identity. Not by struggle, but by assumption. Not by forcing emotion, but by entering the state of the one who already possesses what you seek. And when you wake tomorrow, the shift will already be in motion, subtle but undeniable. A new gravity pulling the right events, the right people, the right timing toward you. Not because the universe suddenly favored you, but because you finally stopped contradicting yourself inside. You became the one who receives, and that's the moment everything begins to align. So take a breath. Let tonight be the night you stop chasing your desire, and let your desire come find you. And if you felt something awaken in you during this journey, a recognition, a calm, a quiet inevitability, then you are ready for what comes next. This is the beginning of a new inner life, a new relationship with yourself, a new way of creating reality from the inside out. And you're not doing it by force, but by becoming. If this message resonated, if it opened something inside you, if it shifted the way you see your own power, then you're exactly where you need to be. Thank you for walking this far. Now walk the rest of the way tonight in silence, in certainty, in identity, because once you assume the end assumes you.